All right, here we go. Dresta and BG Knocc Out.
What's happening, man? What's happening?
Welcome to VladTV, man.
Righteous.
Well, BG, you did an interview a while back, which last I checked got like 7 million views.
Yeah, that's
combined.
dope. That's an awesome thing.
A lot of people hit you about that?
Yeah, they still do.
Of course.
People are still just now seeing it. That's probably why I keep catching on.
Yeah, I mean, it's those timeless, you know, Death Row, Eazy-E, Ruthless
It's
Records,
a big story,
Compton
man.
stories.
It's a lot.
Man.
It's a lot about that story to tell. You know?
No doubt. Well, Dresta, this is your first time here.
Yeah.
And you guys are actually brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same parents.
Same mother.
Same mother.
Okay.
Different father, same mother.
Oh, different fathers. Same mother. Are you mixed?
Yeah, I'm mixed. I'm mixed with mainly with Native Indian. I have 2 Native Indian grandparents, my great grandma and my grandma. And my great grandfather was German. He migrated from Germany here.
Okay.
And then on my mom's side, we have Cherokee, and then, you know, the slavery thing. So.
Yeah, we all got some cut in it somewhere.
So did you guys grow up together?
Yeah.
Same house?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
Change his diapers, man.
Okay, so you're the older one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, how much older?
About 5 years, 4 years, something like that.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years.
Okay, and you guys grew up where?
We grew up in Compton.
Compton
and Watts. You know, both. We lived in the Jordan Down projects as well as, you know, our grandparents and with my mother and father both were born on Harlan Street, Harlan Avenue in Compton.
Okay, so you being 5 years older, you know, in Compton, what was it like as a kid that was a little bit different as time went on?
It's a major difference because in that time, when I was a kid, like at his age, like Compton was almost like it was considered upper middle class. So I got a chance to see Compton in a different type of light than what's been portrayed just on TV or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? So I watched. We have a my great grandmother she looked like she could have been your grandmother. But when she talked, you know she was Compton. She's a black woman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just a whole different transition from what it turned into from where it was.
Okay, and I remember, I think it was on Dre's Compton album. They had that kind of intro where they talk about at one point there was like, I guess, white flight started to occur.
Yeah, that happened all on the West Coast.
Yeah.
That's a real story.
That's where the valley and all that came. That's why they created these valleys. And
so the white people moved out of Compton to where we are right now in the valley.
And now they gentrifying it, taking it back.
Okay, so more black people were basically moving into Compton at that point?
Yeah, they was migrating from the
Compton
Midwest.
became all black. Compton had its own drive-in, had its own walk-in theaters. Compton had, it was only 10 miles.
And George Bush
10 square miles, but it had all of these amenities right here in the city.
Bush, senior and junior, actually lived in Compton too.
Yeah.
I remember that, yeah. There's a picture of like little George with like a little toy gun or something like that in Compton.
Yeah, they actually, I believe, the Richmond Farms.
In the farms, yeah.
Yeah, because you know how it's like, it looked like Texas over
here.
Yeah. The way they made it, it's like a lot of cattle, horses.
And it's still like that to this day.
Yeah.
Maybe now, I don't know how much cattle, but I know as a kid growing up, I always knew people who I went to school with that rode horses every day to go home and ride their horse to school sometime. You know what I'm saying? So that was always Compton country. And it's weird because we used to travel and we go to places like Texas and people used to always say, y'all sound country. And we never understood it, but you know, actually our great grandparents.
Even right now, I can hear it in my voice.
Yeah, and that's where it comes from.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of black people started moving from the South.
The South and the Midwest.
Midwest.
Yeah. That's why our mother's from Indiana. My father's from Ohio.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, at what point did things start getting worse in Compton?
What you mean?
I'm assuming the drugs.
It has to be the 84, 85, 83. You know, I think, and it had a lot to do with, I think, the music as well as the drugs. You know, because before cocaine, it was like PCP was real heavy, right? So that was a drug that a lot of kids was on that drug. I had people in my family who was 13, 14. That was their drug of choice every day. You know what I'm saying? So it had to be the drugs, but then just generations, the guns coming in with the drugs. You know what I mean?
Do you remember when crack cocaine first hit Compton?
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
And it was called Ready Rock.
It was freebasing before.
In the beginning.
I don't know what it was called for you, but it was called
I
for
heard
us.
all that too. Yeah.
We knew all the terms, but it was different terms everywhere you went. It was different. It was never no one thing. That's the media.
Yeah, like
that's the media putting names on it. You know
from
what I mean?
area to area. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Right. Well, I interviewed Freeway Ricky Ross.
That was the first time I ever saw crack.
Okay.
What they call crack, we don't call it crack. We call it Ready Rock.
Ready Rock.
Yeah, we never called it crack. That's a government term. That was the term the government used so they could hammer everybody.
Did you guys know?
Yeah. We knew of him. Yeah. I never met Rick back in
those days.
I know I met him like recent years. Yeah.
After he got out of prison and everything else like that. But you guys heard the name.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, we had other people in our lives who was actually on the same type of scale he was on.
Absolutely.
That we
really?
Oh, it's a lot of
definitely, man.
It's a lot of freeway Ricks in LA.
Because in the 80s, that's when you had the crack millionaires.
Yeah.
You know, that's when people were really making the huge
money.
And
we knew quite a few of them personally.
Did. And then we knew some youngsters, Vlad, like 12, 13, that was having that kind of money.
Yeah.
Because they was just old enough to get out there. You know what I mean?
12 or 13.
Yeah, bro. I remember the Elite mopeds? The very first ones that came out. The dudes in our projects had them. And one of the youngest dude was 13.
Well, nobody had them. And not only did they have them, they had their names written in in cursive, and, like grown men. You know what I mean? It was that much money being made at a young age.
What was that dope movie called?
Breaking?
No, the one.
Scarface?
No. The East Coast one.
Oh, New Jack City?
Not New Jack.
King of New York?
No, the other one.
Paid in Full?
Paid in Full. That type of era. That's the type of era we know about. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
Now, were the Crips already established at that point?
The Crips been established since the 70s.
Way
the 70s.
Okay. Before that.
And you guys were Nutty Block?
Yeah.
Okay.
Back in the 70s, we were neighborhood block Crips.
But our hood went through a lot of transitions.
Different transitions, yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, so when you were a kid, what was it?
Neighborhood block Crip.
Aha.
Yeah.
Okay. And how old were you when you first got affiliated, Dresta?
That's all my life. My grandma, it's our street. It's my mom and my dad. I can show you my birth certificate. My mother and my father, both addresses on the same avenue, the same street. So it was before my time, you know what I mean?
So you were just born into it?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
So you get older. At what point did you start getting kind of active?
Active is a different word, because it's like where we came from, you had to just be active just to have the friends you had. You couldn't even go nowhere if that wasn't what it was. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't even be outside with us. You know what I mean? So, and that don't mean you had to be tough. That don't mean you had to be, but you had to be prepared and be willing to participate with no fear. You know what I mean? No shame with what you did. So, it's. I can take you back all the way to elementary with me, you know what I mean, to third grade, writing on walls, and that's where I'm from, you know what I mean? And got people that can live to testify to it, you know what I mean? So we go back that far that we were in elementary with khakis on and sweatshirts with our names on it and all, you know what I mean? Without our mother even realizing that we already done signed up for this life. You know what I mean?
think what it was back then, the violence and all that wasn't there yet. Do you understand what I'm saying? It was fighting. You know, stick. Somebody might get stabbed. It
was named the fear. You saw death. You knew what it was, but it wasn't like it is now.
So I don't think our parents back then, they didn't think it. They didn't see it as a big, because they was all our friends. It wasn't like we was hanging with strangers.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I mean?
Well, the crack hadn't really hit.
Yeah, at that point.
And the big money wasn't coming yet. That's what started to bring the bigger guns and the bigger violence. And I think I interviewed Big U. I don't know if you guys saw that interview.
Yeah,
he was saying that like what he started seeing was just a different level of guns. Yeah, it was called Ready Rock in the beginning.
It was a lot of different names, and so when it actually hit was like '83, and I came back home '84, and we went from being able to just, and it changed it because two things happened major, the influx of guns. And a different kind of guns, and then
like the automatics. And
the automatics,
like that,
because we hadn't even seen automatics. We weren't even having no automatics then, and especially like what we was inflamed by the 9mm from the movie that came from New York was King of New York when Lawrence Fishburne had the 9mm and the King of New York. We was like, oh, that what the, you know what I mean? Because we come from the Clint Eastwood era. The pistols and the 4.5 and the magnums. So when crack came, all the different movies came that influenced the culture at the same time.
Yeah. Okay, so this is one thing I could tell you about. So I heard from an OG that they used to find barrels of guns along the train tracks. Yeah. Just sitting there, Uzis, like fully automatic guns, bro, like just sitting there for people to find. Little kids in the ghetto throwing rocks on the train tracks, what they do. stumble across a whole barrel of guns.
So you think the government left them there?
I mean, we had the train try to run right through all through from South Central,
Because we know crack was made
Compton,
in USC,
Carson, all the way
right?
down.
They made crack in USC, in the college.
Really?
In the lab, yes.
Okay.
And they experimented with it there before they put it in the street.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the USC is kind of in the hood.
Yeah,
you know?
everything. Yeah, I mean, they was experimenting.
We were so, put it like this, we were so at the beginning of the crack era, we were so in the midst of it that as kids, I'm 12 and 13, we didn't even know, we just knew that we saw something white, they like put on their tongue and they buy it and they like it, right? So when we wanted to, my first time buying drugs, I had to go and create this white little substance. So when they put it on their tongue, and it turned out to be candle wax.
Yeah, oral gel.
I used oral gel, candle wax, and baking soda, right? Well, Tori Canton had me and one of my cousins. We thought this shit up real clear. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I created some rock, ready rock, off of some candle wax, some oil gel, and some motherfucking baking soda.
Okay.
Went on the corner, made $40, and went and spent that and flipped that and came back to I made my way to half a track, and it kept going.
Well, what happened when the crackhead came back after smoking your oil gel?
I'm gonna tell you a real story. This is a real life story. This crackhead who I ended up selling it to, right, was basically like an uncle who was a doctor who lived at the end of the block. His sister was a probation officer.
That worked at LP?
It worked in Los Padrinos, where I just came back from. This is somebody who calls me her nephew. So I knew if I sell it to him, he can't really complain because he don't want them to know that he smokes drugs.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And I was that young and understood that at that age. You know what I mean? Having to feed my little brothers. But my mother was in prison at that moment.
Your mother was in prison?
Yeah, yeah.
For what?
First time I had attempted murder. We ain't
Your
gonna
mom was
talk too
in
much
prison.
about her story, but because it's a lot to be told. Lad. Our story is real authentic. You know what I mean?
Okay, so your mom was in jail for attempted murder. How long was she in for?
3 years.
3 years. She had 6. She only did half though.
Yeah.
Okay.
3 years and some change. Yeah.
So she got off easy.
It was self-defense, really.
In that day and era, no. And then that day and era, 10 years was life sentences, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So 6 years seemed like a whole lot.
Before the laws.
Yeah, the RICO Acts came later and everything
especially
else
when
like
you're
that.
a single mother and you got 4 young sons on the streets that, you know what I mean? And you know ain't nobody gonna do for them like you gonna do for them but them, you know what I mean? So 3 years meant a lot, and it still does to this day to her, you know what I mean?
How old were you when you first started dealing?
First time I started selling drugs, I was 12.
12, not even a teenager yet.
What I was doing though, I was selling marijuana joints. I was catching the bus from the projects to go to school in my neighborhood to Walton Junior High School. So me and one of my cousins, we decided, okay, we get $100, we can buy some weed, roll 100 joints, we gonna get, you know what I mean? So we got a plan, we got that, and then we got a candy house that we stop at called the Funky Fives in Watts, where they sell penny candy. So we also gonna spend $10 on penny candy and sell them for 10 cents a piece at school. Right. So we enterprising at that young age, you know what I mean? Right. That's when I started selling drugs, was selling weed at dollar joints on the bus.
Okay.
Back and forth from school.
I caught my first drug case at 12 years old, sold to an undercover. And I was AWOL from placement, from foster care at that time, too.
Okay.
And I just went by that foster home the other day in the city on Wilmington.
Oh,
and I was talking to somebody, I said, man, my little brother was in foster. I just was at that spot a couple
the
days
people still
ago.
Next door, they still.
On everything.
I mean, when you talk about, well, weed usually, not a ton of violence that goes along with it. When we talk about crack and cocaine.
I moved into crack, I started selling crack. First I sold Sherm first. I used to dip sticks first. That was the first drug I was PCP. Because I can get on the bus and then I can get off the bus down here in Compton, in the neighborhood, and walk over here and dip me some sticks and make some money. Police come, I bust on the ground, I don't never go to jail. So I started doing that. Then when my mother went,
and those vials,
it was my mother
going
to
jail.
jail.
The little vanilla vials with the vanilla flavor.
Yeah, we keep it in a little pour, so you know what I mean. It evaporates. You never, there's no case. You know what I mean. So that was my next thing. Then it was my mother going to jail, and basically her people used to cop from ended up seeing me one day and offered it to me, and I wanted to help get some bail money to help her get out of jail. And that day I started chopping rocks and selling rocks.
What do you think was the most violent situation that happened in the course of you actually selling?
Oh man.
Too many to count?
That's 10 movies in itself, Vlad.
Okay.
That's just probably in a matter of months or years. You know what I mean?
A lot.
We know a lot of people. It would probably blow your mind if you knew exactly how many people that we know that was here and that ain't here no more. You know what I mean? I don't think we can keep count. It's that many.
So you were going to funerals constantly?
Not even just going to funerals. I was incarcerated for a lot of my youth too. So you know what I mean? So it's a difference. You know,
that's the thing about us. Like, well, you was in foster care with us, and then you went to what?
I was with the boys home, right? Boys home. group homes. You know, I went through the whole thing after my mother went to jail. You know, I did what I could for as long as I could to, you know what I mean? And we all got pulled in separate directions, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I was in foster care from 10 to 15.
Okay. It was like he was walking my footsteps. I ended up in this boy's home, out of this boy's home. I ended up over here. Right, he ended up out of his boy's home. I ended up still more juvenile hall. 2 months later, here he come. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, were you trying to tell him, like, okay, don't fuck up like me, and here's how not to do it? Or was it just not that level of...
I had to. I'm big brother.
Exactly.
I had to go to mother, and if I didn't do what she said, boy, if he was regarded that, I got to deal with her. I ain't for the fight her. I have to fight you. You know what I'm saying? So I had to. That's all I knew since he came here. You know what I'm saying? But when he got to a certain age where he can think for himself, I kind of, you know, let him do for himself. Unless I thought it was something being influenced on him from other people, then I'm gonna step in. You know what I mean? But we really kind of started almost the same. He was already out there with me at such an early age. It wasn't really too much. I didn't know that he didn't know. He did more. I couldn't do some of the shit he was able to do. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have them responsibilities. I did. He was my responsibility.
Then I was a little light-skinned kid, so I got away with a lot. Like, people just liked me, you know what I'm saying? So, like, I remember he used to get picked on by G homies, and I would go try to take up for him.
Grown-ass men.
You know what I mean?
Because they saw that I was the only, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he was just
9,
a big
10,
youngster,
11 years old, but I looked like 13, and I carried myself like that because I got a mama that'll beat the skin off me if I don't, you know what I mean? Play the position she's asked me to play, you feel me? So.
Well, you got convicted for, I guess, assaulting another gang member in '88. Yeah. And you were in, I guess, YA until '93. Yeah. So 5 years.
Yeah. And actually, I was already incarcerated a year and a half before that. I was in juvenile hall, and the case didn't come up until a year of me being in juvenile hall. So then I had to fight the case for another 7 months. Then I went to YA. So it was actually almost 8 years total. You know what I mean?
8 years by the time you were how old? 18?
22.
22.
21, 22 years old.
For more than a third of your life.
Yeah.
Was spent locked up in various places.
Yeah.
So, I mean, by 22, were they putting you in adult prison?
No, it was juvenile prison. It's called California Youth Authority.
Oh, okay, so Youth Authority goes to 22?
From 13 to 25.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can get juvenile life. You can
be a 14, 15-year-old kid who end up in an institution with people 23, 24, and 25 and have to survive.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
Oh, yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
What was the worst thing you think you saw during the YA?
It's a whole lot, man. It's a whole lot.
It's a junior prison.
Like I say, I'm writing films about this stuff. I'm trying to document all this stuff so I can bring it to the table. So some stuff I can't really, and it's so deep. If I start, I probably won't know how to stop. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel you.
And it's all real. It ain't nothing. It ain't really too much that's fictional about it. You know what I mean? I can tell you about a prison guard, a female guard who was found dead in her office with her body broken in half into a trash bag for, you know what I mean? It's wilder than what the public would ever understand or know.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
You know, when you see a lot of these prison movies, you know, like American Me and so forth, and you see all the rape and everything else like that. Was that happening in YA?
I'm quite sure it was. I can't say that I've witnessed none of it, but it happens. You know what I mean?
I've seen it in
it happens.
The youngest XY in Los Padrinos is the youngest unit there, and it was happening there.
Okay.
Because kids are like, I think they start out at like 9 years old, something like that.
What I do talk about, and I want to speak about, because I know it's a lot of people from that era that was in juvenile hall in the early '80s and shit like I was. They had a doctor there, man, that when you went through the processing of being processed into that institution. Remember the white man, the doctor with the glasses, old fat white guy?
I don't remember them.
He'd bring us in the room one at a time, and he always wanted to touch your nuts. And I just asked him, man, why you want to touch my nuts? You know what I'm saying? Well, I have to make sure you have 2 testicles. I can tell you I got 2 testicles. I don't need you to touch it for you to know that.
So you had a pedophile in there, basically.
Yeah. That was going on way back then.
Yeah.
But it took all these years later and things that occurred in my life to make me have to go back and look at, damn, all this type of stuff that we paid no attention to. So imagine that society would never understand half the shit that people like us had to go through in order just to be here right now, to be talking to you, period.
Oh no, I remember, I think it was when I interviewed CASANOVA 2 times, you know, who was in prison for a long stretch, you know, in the youth section also. He said that the guards would have like gladiator night and just make the kids fight each other.
Dealing with COs, like nowadays I'll be like, dang, like these COs had to be really some ruthless people. Because me now, and I'm still hip if need be, but I'm saying me now, I wouldn't let two little kids fight. They used to let us fight. Like, it used to be fight night. Like, Friday, fight night. Y'all gonna fight. Y'all gonna fight for y'all cookies. Y'all gonna, and you gotta look at it. We really used to have busted lips, black eyes, and that was evil. You know what I'm saying?
You start that early. That started, like he said, from group homes and placements, and because you have bullies, man, everywhere. I've had to go to a youth home he was in before from, a dude was older than him trying to bully him. You know what I mean? But didn't know that they was at a facility I used to be at already, and had to, you know what I mean? So it's treacherous, man. Okay. It's treacherous.
Now, at what point did you start actually writing raps?
I was writing raps all my life, man. I've been writing since 12 years old. I started at 12.
What year?
12. Was hip hop? Hip hop was really early back then.
Yeah.
That was like really Egyptian early. Lover.
It was really, and
Uncle Jam's Army.
I have an incredible history with it, man. I have an incredible love story with it. You dig what I'm saying? I'm talking about. My mother used to write like these foam things you see on your wall. In our project in our house, she had big colorful paper just like that on the walls, and she used to write poetry. Her poetry used to be on the walls. So that's where I learned a lot of my penmanship from and my wordplay from reading her poetries. And not only that, DJing her parties and playing the oldies and learning that music and you know what I mean, and absorbing all of that, you know. I used to record K-Day every weekend. Easy's Move for Love. I used to record them type of shows and play them for her friends on the weekend. They swore I was a hell of a DJ, not knowing. I just sat up here recording them songs off the radio all week and put them together on a cassette tape and format. You know what I mean? So I've always had this love affair with music.
Okay. So you get out in '93. By this time, NWA is the biggest thing in the world. I mean, the NWA is broken up at this point.
No, Death Row was the biggest thing in the world.
Death Row is the biggest thing in the world, but in terms of like Compton, NWA set the blueprint. And you know, Eazy-E was a mega star and so forth.
Yes, sir.
Did you guys actually know Eazy-E before?
Yes, sir.
You knew him.
I lived on the next block. I have an auntie who lived on Caress Street. Eazy lives on Muriel. I went to junior high school with his sister. I went to Roosevelt.
Okay. But was Eazy a Crip?
Yeah.
He was. Okay.
Actually, what a lot of people don't understand is that like a lot of neighborhoods, some neighborhoods started off as hustlers. You know what I mean? And Eazy neighborhood where he grew up in started off as a hustler neighborhood. I have a lot of cousins from that neighborhood. You know what I mean? So it was a transition from hustlers to, and my first gang, I was a hustler. That's what we call ourselves, young hustlers. So it's just a transition that was made when certain gangs decided, okay, we're not gonna be hustling no more, we're gonna start cripping. Because, you know what I mean, it was money involved and other things going on. Yeah.
Okay, so you knew him your whole life pretty much?
And I can't say we had a real personal relationship with him. He was older than me, you know what I mean? I went to junior high school with his sister. You know what I'm saying? I walk home sometimes and I go stop over and talk to her, you know what I mean? Things like that, so.
Right, and then he got rich.
Yeah, and then he got rich. He got rich, and I knew when he got rich, I was actually in Juvenile Hall. I was in East Lake Juvenile Hall. Okay. And, I talked to one of my cousins, Adolf, on the phone. Yeah, he's from his neighborhood. You know, that's Lil Eric on the radio. You know, that's Lil Eric. And that's when Boys in the Hood just came out.
In placement.
And they had been playing it on the radio, but I didn't know who it was until I spoke to my cousin. He told me that's Lil Eric on the radio. I said, okay, that's crazy.
I was in the boys' home in Long Beach.
Yeah.
I mean, when Boys in the Hood came out, that was like a nuclear bomb had dropped. It was so different and it was so good.
Definitely.
And like between the swearing and the, you know, no one knew about Compton. Like Eazy-E put Compton on the map. Like I was living in the Bay. The first time I ever heard of Compton, I heard of LA obviously, but the first time I ever heard of Compton was Eazy-E.
Because Compton is in LA County, so.
Yeah.
I don't even think it was the appeal of just Compton at that moment. It was just the appeal of the rawness and you know what I mean, speaking the language that the streets spoke. You know what I mean? So I think that's what people gravitated to the most. At least for me, I did.
So you get out. At what point do you and Eazy hook up?
What a lot of people don't know is that I was already like preparing a lot of things before I left Youth Authority. I helped start a media production program in Youth Authority where I was learning editing and dealing with toasters and dealing, because this is something I wanted to do. I already filmed my first rap videos and stuff, and I'm the first person in Youth Authority to do these things. I made the front page of LA Times for doing these things, you know what I mean? So I actually was trying to get to Death Row. I wanted the best. Dr. Dre, I was a fan. I'm Dr. Dre, you know what I mean? That's who I learned a lot of creative things from studying that guy, you know what I mean? It's just that what happened was when NWA and Cube decided to part their ways, and where I was at that moment, that was big for us. We was kind of the gladiators who dictate what we listen to on the yard. I was in youth authority. So a lot of dudes from LA was like, okay, we riding with Cube now, fuck NWA. You know what I'm saying? There was niggas from Compton like, fuck it, we gotta ride with NWA then, fuck Cube. We on some, on some of that shit. So it's a lot, man. It's a lot to take in because it was different for me because I wasn't actually right here, you know what I mean? I was in there absorbing shit and it was a different type, of mode of operation that goes on in there, you know?
Well, you get out, and at what point do you and Eazy actually link up?
I was only out for 3 months. Within 3 months, I had already been to the studio, and met with E. He asked me, what I heard what was going on and this and that. I said, yeah, you know what I'm saying? And he said, man, well, I got this record, let's listen to this record, listen to the beat. He said, man, you gonna write something for me? I said, yeah, I can write something for you, man. He said, man, you gonna be on it with me? I said, man, yeah, man, I'll write something for you. So I took the track on, we set up there. Next day, came back. I had, the part was kind of too long. This is my first time, like I said, I'm fresh home from doing all this time. This is my first time actually even professionally writing for anything, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to make sure I write a hit record because I've studied how to write hit records, you know what I mean? So I know how to write a hit record, so Eazy used to write little notes. I wonder if Dresta can, trying to pump me up because he was really, his record was pressed already.
Oh, so Compton City G's was already done.
His record was being pressed already.
That's what I'm saying. No,
Compton City G's wasn't even thought of yet.
Yeah, it wasn't done.
Wasn't even thought of.
Oh, what do you mean his album?
We came in on the cusp.
The EP was already being pressed.
Aha.
Yeah, we came in.
Oh, but there was no Dre Response record yet.
It was its own.
Well, it was on
its own. It was the title track for the album, for the EP.
Yeah.
Its own Dr. Dre 187.
Yeah.
187 Killer. So he got a song with
that record was being pressed already.
Then its own.
Okay.
That song.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That was supposed to be the single.
We talked about this last time. I guess you had written Eazy-E diss record.
Yeah, I had just a rap.
Just like a rap, I guess.
Yeah. Just like a Hot 16. Yeah.
And Eazy asked you to actually spit it for him.
Man, yo, he was on me. He was like, come on, man, say it. I'm like, nah, I'm not finna say this in here in front of you like that, man. He was like, come on, man, it's cool.
I remember when you wrote that rap. I remember when you wrote that rap.
I don't even remember the rap, but he was like, you cold. He was like, you gonna diss me like that in my own style? I said, man, you told me to say it. Yeah, you crazy. He was
I'm
crazy.
sure you're pretty nervous, actually.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That rap. I'm already starstruck because I'm here with Eazy. Like, I used to write his fan club. I used to write all their fan clubs and all that, trying to get a deal. Like.
Write on magazines and all that type of shit, man. Yeah.
All that.
Okay, and you were how old at the time when this was happening?
17.
And you were?
I was still in high school.
I was 21.
21.
He was telling everybody he was 14, 15.
I did look like it though, for real.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys get in the studio with him and you guys record.
But he did it first.
No, I had to write the song. Not only write the song, I had to go and record the song, but not just record it. It's like with E, I studied like Only If You Wanted, the songs that other people had written for E prior to, you know what I mean? So,
right, because Eazy didn't really write himself.
No, basically, automobile songs like that, and give me that nut, stuff like that, you know what I mean? That was his type of shit, you know what I mean? But when I wrote, for me to write the lyrics for him, I had to basically just record it in a way, in the kind of octave that he would record it. Hey, yo, doctor, isn't that, you know what I mean? In order, because it was that difficult for E to learn raps. That stuff they did in the film was actually, I'm telling you, it was line for line. Hey, yo, doctor.
Yeah, punch in, punch out.
Yeah, we had to really do that whole.
Yeah, I heard he was fairly offbeat.
And I mean, that was after weeks. This is weeks of riding around in your Benz, listening to the song for weeks.
Right, because Eazy never wanted to be a rapper. He just wanted to be the finance guy.
Yeah, but that changed quick, man. Once you get a taste of that stage and that fame, come on, man, stop it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys record Real Motherfucking G's.
Yeah.
Did you think you had something special on your hands at that point?
I knew it.
You knew it.
He knew. I didn't really know it that much.
Immediately.
What I started looking at was how everybody else came in and reacted to the record, like Quick and different people that he would have come over the studio. And they used to be like, that's it. Like, I used to always hear people say, that's the one, or that's it.
Because what I
used to be like, okay. And then when the song came out and the way the people reacted, just the day of the video shoot, the song is not out. We making a video all around
Nobody
Compton,
even heard the song. Very few
Never
people.
heard it. They hearing it for the first
song with
time.
people I've taken it to, like at the barbershops and certain shit around the city, people I fuck with, you know what I mean? I took it certain places and played it, you know what I mean? But other than that, no one had ever heard that song before.
But for the first time, the video shoot, they hearing it play out the speaker. And I'm talking about that people was going crazy, yo. Like it was a trip, like to see that reaction. That's when I knew. I was like, oh, okay, this is something else, yeah.
Okay, and I just interviewed AJ Johnson. We were talking about this before we started. So AJ Johnson goes and records Dre Day, and he plays Sleazy E. You know, the fake Eazy-E, and there's a fake Jerry Heller in there. He's calling him boss and dad and stuff like that.
Yeah, which is a dope song too, by the way.
Okay, so when Dre Day,
that was one of my favorite joints.
You like Dre Day?
I used to sing all that Chronic album. I thought it was dope.
Yeah, well, Chronic album was one of the best hip hop albums, period.
Absolutely.
Dre Day changed the momentum of, you know, it got us back in our rhythm. You know what I mean? So I appreciated that joint, man. Even though it was, you know, what it was.
So AJ Johnson plays Sleazy E in the Dr. Dre video, and then Eazy, who knew him from the neighborhood because he's from Compton as well, had him come in and play Sleazy E in the Compton City G's video.
Yeah.
But after the first
day, he was supposed to do that off just based on anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't supposed to be no arguments about that based on.
Right. Well, then after the first day, Suge Knight calls him into the office, pulls out a gun on him, and said that you can't finish this video.
Yeah.
So Arnez J finished off the second day of shooting.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice that?
I didn't really pay attention, Vlad. Like that's the part that I'm telling you, I didn't pay attention to. Like,
well, I was basically kind of co-directing, helping co-direct a lot of parts of the video, so that's why I was kind of more abreast of certain things that he probably.
You chose a lot of locations like the hood and all that.
Okay, so you saw that at one point Arnez J was down.
I knew the day that we were supposed to film that when AJ didn't show up at the film, like I told E, like, man, that nigga should have kidnapped that nigga, man. That's why they, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Compton's so small, man.
It's a little place, you know what I mean? We know everybody, ain't never the phone calls. I call me, you know what I mean?
So you knew that already happened?
Yeah, we knew that off top when he didn't show up. We knew that. We knew that had to happen. That's the only thing that would have stopped him from being there. You know what I'm talking about? The only thing.
Did you guys know Suge?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well?
No.
Okay.
Knew people that knew him.
Just in passing and meeting for, you know, a couple of times, talking to each other, you know, exchanging a few words.
Okay. Because from what I understand, like, I think it was Big U, he was saying how Bloods really weren't prevalent in LA like that until Suge and Death Row and started putting the money behind it and popularizing it and everything else like that. Did you start seeing that kind of?
Yeah, I wouldn't say prevalent, not prevalent, but
I don't try to minimize.
Not prevalent, but I understand what he's saying. It's like when they came out, a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon.
Yeah,
so we did see that. Yeah, we saw that.
Okay.
But it ain't like it wasn't already.
Yeah, Bloods been around forever.
It already was.
They've been around as long as us.
Yeah, I mean.
It just ain't never been as many Bloods as it's been Crips.
But yeah, it wasn't as, you know, I guess as popular.
Yeah.
You know, but it was
especially with music and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's always been here. As long as we've been here, it's been here.
Yeah. I mean, because, you know, DJ Quick with the Pyrus and everything, that was always a thing out there.
Yeah. And,
you know, BG, we talked about last time how Eazy was telling you about the altercation, like the setup, where Suge basically, well, Dre called him into a hotel room and Suge made him sign over the documents and everything else like that. Did you have that conversation with Eazy?
No.
You don't remember?
No. I mean, I know about the stuff, but I don't remember having the conversation with Eazy. Sometimes I did, you know, we talk to other people. We just had things that floated, you know what I mean? And it came to me in other ways, but I don't remember me and E talking directly about it, though.
What was Eazy's overall feeling about Suge at that point? Because I remember, I think Jerry Heller even said that Eazy went to him and said he wanted to kill him.
Eazy to give a fuck about none of that, man. I don't know where they get none of that shit from. I'm gonna keep it all the way.
That probably was a little bit before we came.
It could have been before us or whatever. Cause my whole thing is that when we came with E and when I did what we did with E, it was based on Compton. You know what I mean? It was based on Eazy-E being who he was for Compton. You know what I mean? So I didn't want to see. It wasn't that we wasn't gonna let that happen without, you know what I mean, at least trying to, you know, show the nigga you got some backbone, we can do what you want to do. So we went places, we didn't really worry about none of that shit. Right. He didn't worry about none of that shit because we knew you know what I mean, it wasn't nothing to worry about. You know, I actually tried to mediate certain things to try to change some of that situation, you know what I mean? But it was a lot of big egos and stuff involved too. And
what was your people name that worked for Suge when we was at the Glam Slam that day.
Come on, that's the first time we ever met Suge was at the Grand Slam.
That was he said he was gonna slap us or whatever that time.
Yeah.
We went and confronted him. He was like, "We heard you was gonna slap us, homie." "Oh no, I like you little niggas." Remember?
Yeah, it was funny as fuck. That was one of the most funniest. That'll be one of the most funniest scenes in our film, Real Motherfucking G's the film, because it was MC Ren performing. And this was an MC Ren performance in Death Row that came in, and Real Compton G just started hitting the box, right? So now Death Row done walked in there with their entourage, right? So a lot of folks, and I don't speak on no names and all that, but a lot of folks was running around, hey man, y'all, watch out, man, Suge in here, man. What the fuck is wrong with you niggas, man? Why y'all,
they actually boned out.
And a lot of people was leaving and all kind of shit. I said, man, where they at? He said, oh, they over by the bar, man. I said, we gonna walk, man. I started walking. I looked behind me. All these dudes is walking behind me now. The same dudes that was running, half of them is walking behind me now. They go see what's gonna happen. And all it was, oh, Trey, what's up, my nigga? You know, man, some of my little homies know you. I was in YA together. You know what I mean? Well, holler at me, man. I know you ain't paying y'all right, man. I know you ain't doing right business. You know, it was some kind of shit like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's
okay.
it, man.
But you guys always stayed loyal to Eazy.
Course.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in 1994, Dresta, you were involved in a shooting. What ultimately happened in that situation?
That's something I don't speak on a lot. I mean, it's family involved, it's friends involved, it's people who have children who's grown up since then, you know what I mean? So I try not to speak on it. It was something going on between a family member and his homie, and I happened to be riding through here in the middle of the night on my way to to visit moms and all that, and just knew I felt something wasn't right, and I stopped to try to prevent it, you know what I mean? I tried to, see if I could, if my little cousin was outnumbered, if he was, I didn't know, you know what I mean? Just something in my spirit told me to stop, you know what I mean? Without no weapon, no nothing. And I tried to, do whatever part I was there to play, you know what I mean? And it ended up going down, you know what I mean, with me standing right in the middle of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you get convicted for that?
No.
Okay.
No, I was paralyzed for that.
You
for
got
months.
hit?
I was hit, went through the back of my arm, ruptured subclavian artery to my heart. They had to harvest veins from my thighs to put up in my chest to restore the artery.
Oh, wow.
My arm was paralyzed like this from the moment the bullet hit me. And my leg was paralyzed from harvesting the veins out of my leg, so I ended up with the whole left side immobile.
They had to pull veins out of your leg and put them
they call it harvesting. They had to harvest veins.
I never even heard of that.
Yeah. And I had a young doctor, a black doctor at Martin Luther King Trauma Center, man. He was only in his mid-20s.
Was that the first time you'd been shot?
That's the first time I had been shot. And that's right after doing 6, 7 years and, incarcerated and getting out of a year of a little fun and, and that. And where I actually was, he'll tell you, there's times I was on stage like this, performing. You know what I mean? But we didn't have social media and all that type of stuff to capture those moments for me, you know what I mean? But yeah.
So it was really bad?
Yeah.
Did you think you were going to die?
Yeah, man, I did. When I arrived at the hospital, I had no pulse. I had no pulse. I have a whole song about it too. I had no pulse, and if I pull up my sock and show you towards my ankle, I have 2 slits in my ankle, to where when first they was flipping me over and we have an entry wound, no exit wound, and they're looking for the pulse, no pulse, so they shove these tubes down your throat. They go down your nose and then down to your stomach, you know what I mean? Without no pain medicine or nothing. They do that first, and then they end up cutting the 2 slits in my ankle, which started my pulse. But I just felt myself going until I was just sleeping. I was just gonna go and my mother was right there, and I was just telling her I love you, and she kept crying, saying, why you keep telling me that, you know what I mean? And so, yeah. Yeah,
I'd interviewed this Bay Area rapper named Kafani. I don't know if you heard of him.
Yeah, I heard of him.
He was beefing with this rapper named Filthy Rich, and decided to go film a diss video in Filthy's neighborhood, which is called the Kill Zone.
Yeah.
And he
got laid up.
He got shot up. When you say that, I mean, your heart actually stopped. You were legally dead. Yeah. And you said you felt a peacefulness around it. I mean, describe that a little bit, because I mean, not too many people on this earth have gone through that.
I mean, it was to the point where, like, at the end of the day, like, I was just at peace. I was calm. Like, it just, I don't know. It was just weird. Like, I can't describe it. I don't know if it happened again, it would be the same way. But at that point in time, when I was shot, I just, like, you ask anybody who was there, they was like, I was at peace with it. Like my whole thing. I wasn't like, I used to watch movies and you see somebody get shot and they're losing their life, choking on their blood, and they, screaming and, choking on their blood and just going crazy. It wasn't nothing like that. It was just it was like actually no pain. It was just basically like going to sleep. Pretty much, I just went to sleep. Like I knew I was shot, and I just felt like I was just going to sleep, and it wasn't painful. It's I mean, pretty much that's basically what it was. It was just like me basically going to sleep, and it's kind of crazy because I thought it would be different.
I had an OG Crip from the project socking me, keeping me woke all the way to the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
Every time I was passing out, he'd sock me and wake me up.
Big
sock me
deal
and wake me up. Big deal from PJ's.
I mean, he told me that he essentially died, and he described it the same type of way. He said it was like
peaceful.
going to sleep.
Just
it was
like,
peaceful.
Yeah, it ain't no fear. It ain't. I think my tears was just the fact that my mother was witnessing it. You know what I'm talking about? Other than that, because I didn't feel no pain, I wasn't hurt. I just know, and it was like a peaceful moment. You know what I mean?
It made me, that interview and what you're saying now really kind of made me look at death a little bit differently. You think it's this like, I'm so scared to die, but it's really a natural part of life.
It's different. See, that's just legally dead. That's a medical term,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But your soul, if your soul exits your body, that's a different type of death.
And that can take days sometimes.
Yeah, real talk. So so that ain't really death. You understand what I'm saying? That's something.
That's why a lot of people, when they talk, oh, I saw the lights.
Like the threshold.
No, the lights I saw was from the motherfucking hospital because it's bright as a motherfucker there anyway. You know what I'm talking about? So it wasn't none of that. It was just like you took some Tylenol 4s and the motherfuckers didn't start kicking in now. You know what I mean? Or you just took some X for the first time. You know, they tell you to have sleep with me, and then wake you up. One of them, you know what I mean? One of them type of moments, bro.
Luckily, you survived that.
Oh, yeah.
You still have pain from that and everything?
Vlad, the story is more than you can handle, Vlad. You know, you have no idea. Vlad, let me just tell you this, Vlad. November 4th, 2016?
2016 or 2017?
I thought it was 2017.
Yeah, brother.
I was just hit 5 times recently.
Yeah.
Just had 4 surgeries. 3 back here, 1 up here, 1 through my rib cage, through my stomach, ruptured parts of my intestinal and things like that.
Yeah, me and BG were talking about that because I was trying to get you in, and then he told me the news. So I remember I kept hitting him, was like, is he okay? Is he okay? And then finally said, yeah, he's okay.
Yeah, it's been 12 slugs total since 1993 are coming, you know, releasing from youth authority in 4 different incidents.
4 different instances.
Yeah.
So the first time happened in 94. Yeah. Then you had 3 other incidents?
3 other incidents. 94, 97, 2005, and 2017. See how I know him so well? Yeah.
What were these other instances about?
Who knows?
Who knows?
There's some greatness in me, man. You know, I'm trying to figure it out too.
The last situation that happened last year, you were hit how many times?
5.
5 times. Your internals were all...
He saw me.
Yeah, man, that shit right there, man. I was actually in the studio on the mic when my phone rang and I saw it was my brother because, you know, we write our raps on our phones nowadays. So when the screen light up, I see it's my brother. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, Vlad, on a Sunday. I answer the phone, he like, I'm hit. It's the first thing I hear. What do you mean you hit? Man, I'm driving myself to the hospital, man. Man, where the fuck you at? In the hood, whoop-de-whoop-whoop-whoop. Like, yo, man. So he going to the wrong hospital. He going to Martin Luther King.
But where they saved me before.
Yeah, they used to call it Killer King, but we both went there. We both got shot and been in that hospital. But anyway, he driving there. I'm telling him, the hospital ain't open. I'm way in Vegas. He in Compton. So I'm telling him, go to St. Francis in Linwood, you know? And I'm on the phone with him, talking to him all the way until he got to the hospital. Once I hear that, like the doctors and all that come outside, I hang the phone up. You know what I mean? Like, it was crazy, yo.
Yeah, I was blessed, man. The person who did it thought I was dead, man. That was because I was laid over in the car to the side. And I actually was in a position where I couldn't do nothing, man. I couldn't try to stab. If I had action, I would have tried to, you know, I would have tried to stab out or whatever. I had no action to do nothing but try to, you know, talk and be a gentleman about the situation. You know, say who I am, this is where I come from. You know what I mean? If anyone know me, I know I ain't out there doing no wrong, you know what I mean? So I went through all of that, and it still ended up occurring, man. But I actually watched the dude get back into the car and everything, man, all the way till they pulled off, and then I sat back up and got on my way. Thank God that the tires wasn't hitting shit like that, you know what I mean?
Oh,
but I'm also counting, I'm feeling different shit. I've been hit before, but I've never been hit within my body feeling like this, you know what I mean? So I had to get on the phone and call somebody because I didn't know how much time I had to make it to no hospital, you know what I mean? So I called my little brother, I called a female friend of mine, and just so I can have somebody, you know, on the phone with me and conscious of what just happened, so in case I don't make it. and pulled up into the emergency by myself, jumped out, and I'm here.
Oh, you actually drove yourself?
I drove myself to 2 hospitals.
Wow.
Then got out the car, left it running in the emergency, walked in the emergency, and demanded the doctor's attention.
I mean, when you think of all these shooting incidences, do you feel in retrospect you could have avoided them? That you may have put yourself in a dangerous situation that you knew was dangerous ahead of time, or was it more random?
I had no thought about it, Vlad. I'm a dude who's been through so much shit to where I removed myself from everything at one point. I've been through enough shit to where I removed myself from friends, homies, hoods, everything. You know what I mean? So this was just a moment in me talking to friends who've been saying, look, man, you a valuable commodity, man. You know, it's things that you can do that can help what we're trying to do. And it ain't everybody. You know, I know you mad, but you know what I mean? So this was me taking baby steps back to try to come back to these streets and say, you know, this is where I always been. I always had a position here. You know what I'm saying? So coming back and trying to resurface that, you know, parts of my purpose, man. You know?
Yeah, streets don't always love you back, though.
Yeah, so, you know.
What I was telling my brother, man, is he ain't been around in a while. You know what I'm saying? So when you leave the hood and you come back, the dynamics change, and now faster than before. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, now you have social media that plays a role.
Yeah, it's
in
just
hood politics.
now it's different people, right? So when we was growing up, we saw the people before us. You know what I mean? We imitated them, and then some other people, and then us, and then these people who are there now, who are the homies and all that. They weren't like, I don't even really like know them. You understand what I'm saying? They were children. They like our nieces and nephews, our little cousins, and our homies' little cousins, nieces, nephews, and kids. They was not even around, Vlad. So what I'm telling my brother is nobody over there now don't know. Our generation is pretty much gone. These new kids don't know you. So you got to make yourself known.
And I did a little intel. I did a little intel before it happened. You know, the 4 o'clock in the morning. See, I wasn't actually going to hang out. I just had, it was the night the time went back that night. So okay, I'm already out. You know, I've been in the house for a long time. You know what I mean? I'm just now getting out, being sociable again. You know, and breaking a lot of old fears from, you know, things I've been through. You know, trying to put myself out there. You know, it's like self-therapy almost. You know what I'm talking about? But yeah, you're right. I could have avoided a lot of things in life. You know what I mean? But a lot of things I didn't ask for it to happen either.
Right, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I mean, do you feel a sense of anger and revenge and that type of thing, or is it?
Man, you know what, Vlad? After what I've been through, it's more hurt, man. I'm more hurt than anything, man. Cause this is shit that I love. This is people that I've never thought to do no harm to. You understand me? So it's at a point now where it's hard for me to even have these conversations about it. I don't even like talking about it. You know how hard it is to have something that you can't even talk to nobody about? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that deep. It's deeper than anger. I don't even know what to call it. I can't describe it. It's deeper than that.
So, you know, last time BG was here, we talked about Orlando Anderson and that whole situation.
SIP.
And BG, you and Orlando were like best friends. Were you and Orlando close?
Man, before Orlando got killed, Orlando was just in the car driving around. I just went and got some drum machines that this dude left in the pawn shop while he was in prison. Orlando was trying to build a studio, so I told him about the drum machines that he had in the pawn shop. So instead of letting the drum machines get lost, man, Orlando just went and purchased them for him to put into a studio. This was like maybe 2 or 3 weeks before that incident happened.
But when he got killed?
Yeah.
Okay. Before he was killed, though, before the situation in Vegas happened, there was the death row chain incident. Did you know about that?
We were actually on the road a lot at that time. I think we were going. Like when I'm in the neighborhood, that's one of my people who will pull up looking for. You know what I mean? And I pull up looking for him when I go in their neighborhood. So we used to. Then they had it was other little things going on to where, you know, it wasn't cool for me to be in the middle again of certain, you know, things like that.
They were South Side.
Yeah.
And you guys were Nutty Block.
Yeah, but we was NSA.
But we the homies. Our hoods is
Oh, so it was you guys were
we clicked.
Yeah, we used to walk when we started gangbanging. When we first started some of our journeys, we used to have to walk to certain neighborhoods that we was cool with. That was one of the neighborhoods that we actually, some of the people before us fought them, but we ended up walking and becoming tight with them just from walking the streets together. You know what I'm talking about? So that's how far we go back with Southside and Atlantic. We used to have to walk from your neighborhood, past your enemies' neighborhoods and everything else to get to your own neighborhood. It wasn't driving cars and everybody had a car, none of that type of shit.
Did you know Keefy D?
Yeah.
Okay. Were you guys close?
I mean, I know him just as much as I know anybody else in the streets of Compton.
Got it. Okay.
And somebody I know and him is actually real tight, and I used to go over there to somebody my mother, you know, been knowing all her life. You know, I've been knowing people all my life. I got family members that all grew up in all, you know, on my father's side, they all grew up together. They all like family.
The situation happened in Vegas, where Tupac was killed after the altercation with Orlando. Since that time, since the time that you and I, BG, had that interview, the Keefe D tapes came out.
Right.
I think we had talked about them.
We did.
We talked about them, but they weren't out yet. There was just some text.
Yeah, it was just some text.
Like
we read it here last
time.
Yeah.
LA Times, I forgot what it was. There was text.
Right.
I think you were the one that put me up,
yeah,
up on
remember
it.
you pulled it up
Yeah,
last
I pulled it up.
time, yeah.
But then the actual audio came out. I interviewed Greg KADING.
Yeah, I remember.
You saw that interview? Where he laid out the whole story behind how those tapes came together.
Okay.
It's not a deal, it's an agreement. It's known as a proffer agreement. And he's given the opportunity through a agreement between his attorney and the United States attorney to evaluate whether or not it's in his best interest to cooperate. And so that was the arrangement, that he would sit down and tell us everything we wanted to know about anything we asked, and that he had to be entirely truthful, or else he would be charged, not only for the drug crimes, but for potentially his own confession.
Did you hear the Keefe D tapes?
Yeah, man, I actually was, you know, yeah, I did. I listened to a little bit of it. I don't try to feed into too much of none of this shit, though, man. Like I said, I've been through enough shit to where nothing surprises me, man. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be surprised by nothing about no person on this earth right now. You know what I mean? So, what purpose does it serve me to even feed into it? You know what I mean? You know, I don't really pay too much mind to it, man, because it's all stories at the end of the day, and don't nobody know but the people involved in God at the end of the day.
You heard the Keefe D tapes?
Yeah, yeah.
What did you think when you heard them?
I mean, they was incredible. Like, it's like he said, it's like, it was hard to even fathom listening to him saying what he was saying, yo. Like, and that's why I said what I said. Like, I just think that was like real suckerish, man, because that was your nephew at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Your your sister's son that you pretty much raised, you know what I mean? And for you to, and I know he dead and all that. I was just shameful, man, because his mom didn't like it. You know, my little brother is married to Baby Lane's sister.
Y'all don't understand. I just was at a wedding with Keefe D. Yeah,
so,
oh, really?
Yeah, so our little adopted brother, who we adopted pretty much, is married to Orlando's sister. You feel me?
So it's all intermixed.
Yeah, so it's like his mom wasn't with that, him saying that stuff, yo, because that's her child. You know what I'm saying? Why would you, like, leave that type of stigma on his name after he's gone?
No.
Whether it happened or not, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I'll be honest. Everyone who I've talked to off camera, and I'm not going to say any names because this was all off camera, private conversations, but everyone essentially from Compton, associated in any type of way, even before these Keefe D tapes, even before these movies and documentaries, had always told me that it was Orlando Anderson. Had always told me that the most obvious story
it was a rumor,
is what it was.
That's the most obvious rumor, that's why.
Right.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? The whole thing of, oh, Suge set him up and everything else like that, I always thought was stupid. And in fact, I even interviewed the first responder cop that showed up there.
I think so. I think I saw it.
You know, and he even described how
when I came up in the car, I could see that there was bullet holes all in the side of the door. Their bullet holes were kind of right around the handle, and there was also one or more in the windshield right in front of the passenger side. So I was approaching on the passenger side.
I guess the car had been shot 13 times?
You know, I couldn't tell you the exact number, but there were definitely multiple hits on the car.
You talking about Las Vegas, man. You know how much money was floating around at that time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know how many what they call it? How many false what they call it? False flags could have been said anything. I don't know. I don't believe in none of this shit.
Yeah,
man.
listen,
if I wasn't there to witness it, I don't try to speak on it.
You did not speak on it.
Yeah, and what I was gonna say about it too, even talking about that the last time, like what people gotta understand, man, this stuff is how old? It's over 20 years old.
Yeah,
right?
96.
I done been in prison for 10 years in the process, you know what I'm saying, of all this going on, right? So it's kind of hard sometimes when you're trying to recall stories, you just picking from your memory what you can remember. And I know like a lot of people out there, they take everything so literal and to the head, but I was just piecing the story together how I remember.
How you recollected it,
you know what I'm saying?
as you should.
Yeah.
It don't mean everything is 100%. So.
Right. And then Baby Lane, Orlando Anderson gets killed a few years later.
Right.
Which is tragic, man. That was a real Compton young entrepreneur right there, man. A real young entrepreneur right there. He really would have taught a whole lot of young dudes how to really eat out here, man. Because he knew how to eat. He knew how to put it together right.
Well, I guess at one point, Orlando actually testified on Suge Knight's behalf, saying that Suge didn't actually kick him and
he was
whatever
trying to
else.
actually help him, but it didn't really help. But he tried to, you know.
But they were saying that Suge paid him off.
Probably.
You know, at that point, it's like, why not?
I would have too, yeah.
Yeah. But Suge went to prison anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
And at that point, Baby Lane died, and everyone else in the car. There was another guy in the car who died, I guess, of natural reasons. I mean, I guess he was really overweight, and he died of natural reasons. Someone else, I believe, got killed. And at this point, Keefe's the only surviving member of that. And he spoke on it various times, you know, on various specials.
And we knew every one of them dudes personally. Every one of them dudes you talking about personally.
Yeah, and I think that even with Keefe's confession, there's always going to be some gray area around that whole situation, because it's still a cold case.
Yeah.
All these years later, 20-something years later.
There's still a lot of money being made just from telling the story, man.
Yeah.
You know, I just had 2 songs on the Biggie and Tupac series on the USA Network.
Oh, okay.
I have 2 joints on there produced
You
by
did a great job of that, by the way.
Yeah, I have 2 joints on there, so it's just it's business now, believe, in my opinion. You know what I mean? The stories is like those are Elvises. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think the people is going, as long as Hollywood knows they can keep drawing some attention to it and have people intrigued by it, you know, it's going to keep trying to figure out who's this and who did that.
Yeah, and I mean, when Orlando got killed, I looked up that whole situation. That was a mess. It was, I guess, a shootout at a car wash where a bunch of people got killed in the process. Like,
what had happened was Orlando's grandmother had passed away the night before. And apparently he had been drinking all night with one of his best friends, Michael DeRoe. And they went over to a place called Mom's Burgers across the street from the car wash to get something to eat. Well, he sees a guy that owes, from another gang in Compton, a Crips set in Compton, that owes his uncle and his friend DeAndre, I forgot if it was $5 grand, 10 grand, somewhere in there, about $5 grand, over some cocaine. So he decides, because they've been drinking and everything else, they got a gun in the car, they're going to go over and jam him up about the money he owes. Well, this guy's from another gang in Compton called Corner Pocket. And some of the other Corner Pocket gang members were there, and they started coming up like, hey, what's this all about? Why are you jamming them up? And next thing you know, Orlando pulls out a gun and shoots 2 of the Corner Pocket persons that are there, or shoots one of them right away. And then another Corner Pocket guy starts shooting back at Orlando and pretty much hits him dead center. I mean, he wasn't alive much longer after that. His partner that was in the car with Orlando took the gun and then started shooting back and ended up shooting another Corner Pocket guy that shot Orlando. They went around the corner, crashed the car, and we were pulling up there when Orlando was being pulled out of the car. The other guy took off running, dumping the gun. And we're waiting for paramedics, and one of our partners, Ray Richardson, was over there talking to Orlando, and he was basically taking his last breaths at that time. And 2 of the persons at the gas station that they were shooting at also died that day. So it was a triple murder, and it was all dope related.
It was right by Compton High School, actually, at a car
back
wash.
of the high school.
And the cold thing is, like, the guy who, what's it, Stone, yeah, Jerry Stone. Yeah, Jerry kind of like family to us.
Yeah, we all love one.
Like our cousin, he got babies by one of our cousins. Like, I think those are his first kids. If not, they're some of his earliest kids. But
I knew what the whole conflict was about between them and everything. That's when Lane just drove me around and showed me a whole lot of shit he had going on. And that was one of the situations that he you know, he revealed to me that was going on at that moment.
Oh, you mean the situation where he got killed?
Yeah, I didn't know it was that serious, though. I didn't know it wasn't supposed to be that serious. It was supposed to have been just, you know what I mean? I'm going to get the bread.
It's a whole
backstory. Like that.
It's a backstory.
I heard it was over drug money owed or something like that.
Yeah, but see, it wasn't even that, bro. It was a few people on both sides, right?
Yeah.
And these people, you would call them trigger happy, like, you know what I mean? Like they have a problem with, you know, if they feel like they being tested, they pulling their things out.
Automatic.
You know what I mean? And I know two people in that situation on both sides.
They both was the same, identical. They was
type
twins.
of people. You know what I mean? So I'm assuming, you know, how
but I just know Lane wasn't expecting it to go. I mean, he prepared. If it was, he thought he was prepared for it, but he wasn't really. You know, he just like, you know, these niggas. You know, I thought it was gonna be resolved
the way they say
differently.
Lane. I mean, according to what I heard, and I ain't, you know, I don't like talking to his family about it, yo, because it brings back too much stuff. But from what I heard is they was already leaving the scene, and one of the guys who was hit actually got up and still started shooting before he died. And a bullet came down and came through the back and went through Lane's back seat and hit him in the shoulder. And I think the homie was scared to drive him to the hospital or something like that. So kind of bled out.
Timing, man. Timing is crucial, man. For anybody out there, I have to say that as a survivor.
That's the story I heard.
Timing is crucial, man.
I heard that in jail, so I don't know.
So in 1998, Dresta, you started working with Death Row Records?
Yeah, what happened was I had, Suge was actually looking for somebody to kind of run Death Row Records. They was really trying to find a game plan. They had Eric B from Eric B and Rakim was trying to get the job.
At that point, everyone had left.
Yeah. And they were just doing, actually, he called me, he wanted to do a project, he wanted to put a project. Like I said, we've been cordial in the past, you know what I mean? It was actually times where we was kind of feuding with E, where I felt like in the beginning I was learning shit that I felt like E should have been teaching us, you know what I mean? And we kind of fell out for the moment, like he said, with the Bone Thugs era and all that, to where Suge was really trying to talk us into coming to Death Row, doing the Eazy-E diss record and fucking with Death Row.
I think it was a setup.
And we wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? He sent checks and I sent them back. So I don't get down like that.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean?
Big checks?
Definitely.
50 grand.
50 grand, it wasn't, you know.
You sent a 50 grand check back?
I sent it back.
Yeah, we both did.
My mama, we both did.
Because you were loyal to Eazy-E.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah.
I sent it back.
He used to send this one guy, the ex-football player, dude.
I was being managed by Ron Brown, who was one of his road dogs. You know what I mean? So it was all, you know.
He used to like find me, bro, in like strange places and pop up with this envelope. I'm serious, bro. Like, how you know I was over here?
Yeah, like you know, like we can talk business,
but
I wasn't gonna do it based on, you know, coming to try to, you know, trash Eazy-E legacy. I wasn't for to do that, you know, because that ain't what it should have been about. It should have been about Compton.
Well, you recorded, Dresta, you recorded for, I guess, 2 songs on 2 Gangster for the radio.
Yeah, and if you listen to the songs, it's actually, it was me trying to debut a group that I have called the Young Hogs. So that was an opportunity for me to also get them debuted on a record. You know what I mean? And make some money for the first time. So they made like 20 racks off of it, you know what I mean? And I needed the bread. I was fresh out of jail from 7 attempted murders. So I was offered 30 racks to do something. So I recorded a song. I made sure that we didn't get involved in none of the controversy that was going on. I didn't diss nobody. I didn't let them diss anyone. You know what I mean? Because that ain't what we was there for. There wasn't enough money for us to be doing that.
Right, but at that point, Death Row was on his deathbed. No pun intended.
Was it even Death Row still, or was it
still Death Row?
Oh, okay.
It was still Death Row.
So right, they changed it to the Row or something like that?
Something. I don't know. I mean,
I think it was just the Row.
Remember they put out the Chronic 2000 right before Dre put out his Chronic 2000.
That's what all the money was being used for.
And then all them records, people was just dissing. That's all they was doing on that record. I was like,
Suge Knight, to tell you, man, I talked to Suge personally, and I told Suge, man, look, in the beginning when I first ever had conversations with him, like, man, why you just don't pay the dude Dre some, you know, what he really, you know, a fraction of what he deserves, so he can still produce for you. Right. You still can have, you know, a legacy with your company. But like I say, egos get involved. Eazy-E had an opportunity to sign Shaquille O'Neal when he first was to come in the music industry and was worth $120 million. But guess what Eazy said? That nigga ain't got more money than me. And didn't want to sign Shaquille O'Neal over some ego shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, Shaq went platinum like twice.
This is what I'm saying.
And a gold record on top of that.
And Shaq could actually rap, which is dope.
He's probably the best athlete rapper.
Yeah, absolutely. So far.
In terms of success.
Yeah.
In skills, you could say whoever, but success-wise, it's Shaq.
Right, absolutely.
That's always been my gripe with Suge and Eazy, just the business. Like, why y'all just didn't do, you know, especially with all that money, man, all that, that following, that energy, that shit is a lot to just give away, man.
Right.
You know?
Well, I've always said this in interviews, is that if Suge had played his cards differently, he might be worth
he would
be. Hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, think about, let's just say Death Row never broke up.
Right.
And let's just say Eazy and you know what I mean? Like, think about projects coming out, NWA, 50 Cent, Kendrick Lamar, Eminem, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bone Thugs and Harmony, like Snoop Dogg and the Dog Pound, all of it under one umbrella.
Yeah.
Beats by Dre. Like, Suge could have actually been part of all of that.
Parlayed all that into something real beautiful.
Something
real beautiful.
But I felt like Suge never adapted to his new environment.
He didn't.
He still.
It was too fast. He didn't have time to. He didn't have time to. He didn't have time. He couldn't show that he didn't know. You know what I'm saying? He couldn't display that he really wasn't. You know what I mean? He didn't. You know what I mean? He couldn't display all that. Because the moment he did that, it was gonna be a wrap. Because he stepped into that position. You know what I'm talking about? And tried to live it and walk it too fast. In my opinion, you know what I mean?
Well, Suge just got sentenced.
Yeah.
We took a plea deal of 28 years.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, he took that deal because, I think it was his son was talking about that as well, that he was trying to avoid that and life sentence.
Oh, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I heard, there's people who get 7 to life and 28 years later,
Absolutely.
they're still in prison. Like,
George Jackson got 1 year
rest
to
in
life.
peace. 1 year to life.
Ended up doing
Ended up dying in prison. Never coming home.
1 year to life.
1 year to life.
How many years did he actually do?
Did about 12, and then he tried to break out, and he got
So they
killed.
say.
Well, he
allegedly.
did. No, he did. He did, bro. They got the whole thing. I seen it. Yeah, he tried to.
You get that in your repertoire, man. You need to get some of that George Jackson in your repertoire.
Yeah.
Yeah, George was a cold dude.
Real dude, man. I'm talking about a dude who was so cold with this pen, man, that a whole book is just published about his letters.
Wow.
Just letters written to Angela Davis, his mother, and people like that.
Yeah.
Well, and I've said this before, when you look at that situation with Suge, like, I thought he was going to potentially beat the case. It kind of seemed like self-defense to me.
I thought it would be. I thought that was he had a good strategy as far as the defense.
If someone just beats me up, and I think someone has a gun, I might try to run him over too as I'm trying to get away. Like, the heat of the moment.
Backing up and the going back forward. I think that was the overkill.
Right.
I think all that could have been beat.
Right. But from what I understand, the cusp of it was Suge just wasn't supposed to be there, period.
Yeah, definitely.
He came over there doing the typical Suge fuck shit.
By himself, trying to push a line that
yeah.
When you try to become bigger than the program, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what happened.
You're pushing a line against a billionaire.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
and there's just other ways it
it's
could have
not
been
even
done.
just that, because Dre don't, I mean, I ain't
could've
gonna,
been
not
done
to
just
say it like
differently,
that, but I ain't gonna say it like that, but I don't think Dre, Dr. Dre speaking, holds any weight in Compton to where he can
I don't mean
make somebody move, but money, money is something else
Bullshit
too.
run a marathon.
it's a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a lot of money, and that buys you a high level of security. I mean, you could have Navy SEALs around you. You could have Israeli, soldiers around you, whatever the hell you want. Because I heard that Eazy had Israeli soldiers, bodyguards.
He had some people around him like that.
Yeah, and Eazy once again was a multimillionaire.
Yes, he was.
What did you guys think of when you heard about the Suge sentencing?
I got mixed emotions about it, man. Like I say, me and Suge been cordial. Suge done sent me a couple of dollars for my birthday. You know what I mean? So things like that. But at the same time, I don't know, man. I think it's strategic. You know what I mean? A lot of it's strategic. Well, what could happen if Suge was to come home? You know what I mean? Terry Carter was a man with people who loved him too. You know what I mean? So it's a lot that needs to be thought about in that situation.
I personally
You know what I
feel like it's just sad, man, because here's a man who had all of this, potential, man, and built something so powerful and wasn't smart enough to hold on to it. You know what I mean? So it's like, from that perspective, it's sad, but at the same time, Suge had there's a lot of things about Suge that y'all don't know. There's a lot of things that happened that never made it to
none
media.
of us don't know.
That never made it to media. You understand? Like, just in Compton alone.
Yeah.
And I think he just created this bad energy, man, that, eventually it was gonna come back to haunt him in some type of way.
Well,
you know?
I've always said this. I've been around Suge a couple times, maybe three times that I could think of, and I've never approached him, never had a conversation
Yeah, you
with
told
him.
me that before. Like you ain't even, it wasn't even worth it.
Not interested.
Yeah.
Not interested in, people like, yo, you should interview Suge now. Not interested.
Right.
Don't need any.
Let somebody else do that.
Don't need an official connection to the guy.
Yeah.
There's too many bad stories, too much bad reputation.
If you look at it, so you can look at that shit different ways, right? It could have been a way where, like I tell people all the time, the powers that be and the people who control a lot of the stuff that go on as far as entertainment, it's intelligent people. It's a lot of people put in position and to do certain things and to react a certain way to just be put on display. So now they can say, okay, this is why we won't do this, because that's what you're gonna do with it. You know what I mean? Shit like that. And I don't think Suge understood his responsibility in that part of it. You know what I mean?
Well, when Suge did his interview, he did like a phone interview, I think, with the Blast right after he accepted the sentence. And he said that he thinks that Dr. Dre tried to have him killed.
Yeah. I think at that point he was just so desperate, he just trying to say anything.
Well, and also Suge kept saying that Tupac is still alive.
Yeah, see, he was probably,
and now his son.
I heard rumors he was on drugs, like he was doing all kind of like mollies and powder, and whether it's true or not. But
yeah, but now his son, Suge's son, Suge Knight Jr. is now pushing the whole Tupac is alive thing. And if I were to guess, I'm sure that's coming from Suge.
Probably.
He has to live. He has to live. You got to understand, he's been living off media for a long time. He has to find some type of way to strategize to keep some type of media attention on his name. I would think. You know what I mean?
Probably.
That might be more
desperate,
hustle than anything.
Well, you're sitting down for a long time.
I don't see nobody going to prison on no 4-yard even talking like they telling on nobody about nothing. So you know what I mean? So,
he's not going there.
Yeah.
We're going to sensitive needs. He
Yeah.
He couldn't even walk the line the last time he was in jail.
He's in Mill Creek.
Well, he'd be in PC, I assume.
Yeah.
Well, because no prison wants to be responsible for Suge dying.
Well, his
on their
paperwork
watch.
prior to what happened when he first went to prison, I think he got stabbed. Wasn't bad
so
or
that
something
mean
like
he
that.
can never
So
go back on it.
He can't go. He can't go.
Could never go back.
Oh, he got stabbed in prison?
Yeah, the first time I believe. From what the Bloods in there told me. Yeah.
Suge got stabbed in prison the first time.
Probably wasn't
that's
like
after
crazy stabbing.
Oh, after the MGM incident?
They hit him, but it didn't really happen. Yeah. That when he did that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have so many interviews with people talking about how Suge pulled out guns on him.
Yeah. See.
I mean, Virgil Roberts, who was running Solar Records, he broke down that original incident.
Suge brings him into the studio and has everybody, people from the rehearsal, and said, I want you all to come in here. And he said, this is what's going to happen if you use that phone. And so he tells the guy, take off his clothes. And he says, I'm not taking off my clothes. So then he shoots the gun he has by the guy's ear.
In the Solar Records building.
In the Solar Records building, in the studio.
See, we don't get to witness things like that. We come from a place where they know you're going to kill us. You any type of shit. We don't none of that. We don't have no parts. None of that.
The guys was from New York, I think. I don't even think they was from. But still, yeah.
I mean, AJ Johnson talked about a situation where Suge pulled out a gun on him.
Suge Knight get word that I'm doing Eazy video.
Okay.
He called me into his office.
Before the Eazy-E video.
Before the Eazy video is done. We just done half of Eazy video, like we done one day of it. So I had to go back tomorrow to finish it. But Suge called me into the office. He like, man, you can't finish that video. I'm like, what? I don't have nothing against Dre. I don't have nothing against Eazy. I'm a comedian. I'm trying to pay my rent.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't do it. I'm like, what you mean I can't do it? He already paid me. Suge pulled a gun out. Pow. I said, you can't do it. I won't do it. I went and told E. I said, man, I can't finish the video.
Did you do the DOC? I don't know if
DOC talked about it. That wasn't my interview, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah. He said he was rolling around with Suge, and Suge pulled out to someone and started shooting at him. Listen.
That's what I'm saying.
I've owned guns forever. I've never had the need to do any sort of gunplay, to pull it out on somebody. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel that if I pull out my gun, I have to kill this person, and that's the only reason
you're pulling it.
I'm not pulling it out to show off, to scare you, to have you drink my piss, and all these other stories that you hear Suge talking about. Like, you know, so it's one of those things where it's like, yo, like you've been pushing that line for so long.
A lot of times, you know, people's reputation supersedes a lot of things. You know, it was times that we was in the industry and there was people calling the radio station saying we was taking niggas everywhere we go, so they couldn't, and we wasn't doing none of that. You know what I mean? So, you know, a lot of times reputation supersedes people, real, true intentions and whatnot. Like when I first went to meet with Suge, I remember we was at Tony Rumors. I sat down with all them dudes. My mother was calling, blowing my phone up because somebody told her I was going to meet Suge Knight for the first time, right? We were going to sit down and have dinner with the dude, right? And she called my phone. She wanted to speak with the dude. And I put him on the phone, and she's like, man, that's my baby. You better not do shit to my baby. She got just like that, you know what I mean? Just like that. No, Mom, just the home, you know, some shit like that. So, you know, the reputation, you can't, getting caught up with all the, you know, people say a lot, man. A lot of people say shit because they trying to get some attention on them, because we're in a day and era where you say some shit, you might get popular.
Yeah, but you know, when the stories keep, you know, like I'm thinking of RBX talked about an argument he had with Suge, and Suge pulled out a gun.
So we do the Chronic, everything is good. When we go backstage, it was 8 performers with Dre, Snoop, everybody came with the 8 performers. So when we get back to the dressing room, there is a table and it had 8 bags of chicken on it. I didn't know who the chicken was for, but I kind of just put my little educated guess, okay, well, this is for the performers when they get done performing, because they had the waters up there and everything. So I just automatically walked in, grabbed a bag of chicken, because I'm thinking one of them is mine. I just grab one and I get to munching and yada, yada, yada. So the rest of the homies, they get their bag of chicken and yada, yada, everybody eating. Then Suge walks in. And then he walk in talking about, well, who the fuck ate my chicken? Because I guess he had some friends that he was about to bring through, and that chicken was for them. I'm like, yo, but yeah, nigga, they ain't perform. I'm hungry. It's 14,000 people out there. I can't walk down the street. You ain't got no catering here. Nigga, we ain't ate all day. We done did 2 shows. And you finna trip on us about eating a couple pieces of chicken? Nigga, please. And at that juncture, he said something stupid. Like, whoop, whoop, whoop. I'm like, okay, nigga. Then he called me a ricket. He was like, fuck rickets, nigga. Whoop, 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 whoop. Me being the nigga that I am, I said, fuck slobs, nigga. Let's move around. I jumped up. We got to going at it. Whoop, 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 whoop. You feel me? They broke it up. He pulled his little pea shooter out. Like, and then I really went ballistic. Like, nigga, you gonna pop me, nigga? And that was the first show.
There's no stories about Vlad pulling out guns on people.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah,
like, you know,
that's what they say,
I'm just saying, these are all coming from people that were actually there, that actually had careers. These were not just hanger-ons. Like, these are actual legitimate.
We heard a lot of the stories too.
Yeah, we heard a lot of it. I wrote it in the song. You know what I mean? The way I wrote Real Motherfucking G's, boot camp, you're getting treated like, those were stories that we were being fed.
Yeah.
Those were stories that I had to
you're getting treated like boot camp.
Write notes, tell me everything that they got going on.
You're right.
Okay, so those were the stuff that I wrote into the song, because we already knew the stories. But we also knew people who lived in these areas, who know everybody, who know, so we know the real stories too. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Well, I remember there's a book called Have Gun Will Travel. Did you guys ever read that?
Yeah, I ain't read it, but I heard of it.
Yeah, and I mean, essentially, there was just a room in death row with like no door. I mean, no door handle, that they would just go in the back, beat the shit out of people. You know.
Hey man, I went to meet with Suge Knight at Can-Am for the first time before we had that dinner. And that nigga office was all red. Knocked the whole, when you walk that motherfucker, the carpet, everything was, like when we went to Terry Carter house that night, Terry Carter whole bedroom was red. His office was like that. And I had a blue khaki suit on purpose. I had my pistol, and I was with another Compton Crip. He had his pistol on purpose. You know what I mean? We was going to talk business, but we just had this. I was just trying to establish an understanding between me and Suge. Like, I'm a Crip. If you want to talk to me about business, this is where I'm from. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to be treated like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Trey D was the same way.
Yeah.
You know, one of the times we talked, he said about how Warren G's chain got snatched.
Yeah.
By some death row dudes, and he had to go into Suge's office and go get that chain back.
Some dudes snatched one chain in the parking lot of Can-Am in like about 90, 95, 96, something like that, and had ran ran back up in the Can-Am, and so Warren G went and got C-Style, and they went and, you know, they hollered at Suge, and Suge brought him in the room with the, you know, the big red Death Row rug with the thing, don't step on the logo with the Doberman pincher, but Damu right there and all this. And it was just a lot of theatrics, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, dude, you getting tickets. What's really going on? You know what I'm saying?
Well, because that's Dre's stepbrother. Right?
Oh, he got his chain back. We wasn't leaving unless he was getting his chain back. Something else was gonna happen. We wasn't like that. Wasn't nobody getting punked at Death Row when I was there.
I mean, you know, Snoop's whole crew was Crips.
Yeah. It was just Thunder. They was in Thunderdome. It was around a lot of YA babies, penitentiary babies, with a nigga with some money, let them do what they want to do. That was what they was gonna have to go through to be a part of that camp at that moment.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when Suge got sentenced, and we had posted this article where his son was saying how unfair it was and so forth. Someone responded to the tweet and said, "You do know your dad made motherfuckers drink piss, right?"
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying, yo.
We all responsible for ourselves, man.
Yeah, but that's his child. It's, you know,
he's supposed to defend
it.
I mean, that's what he's gonna do.
Yeah,
but to no avail though. He really shouldn't do that. He really need to be quiet. Go kick back, let his daddy show him where some of that money buried at, so he can go enjoy some of that shit. Because if you keep being on the front street, you ain't gonna never be able to pull none of that money out for you. All the real. Yeah. You kick back, man. He pops took what he said he can take. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean?
Now, you were actually in the studio when Biggie and Bone did Notorious Thugs?
He wasn't there.
You
I
were?
wasn't there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was a trippy day. Like, I remember Bone was in town. I was on the run, actually, so I was, you know, creeping out. So I heard they was in town, so they like come up to the studio in Hollywood. We get up to the studio in Hollywood, walk in, it's Puffy, all these people. The same truck that they show in the movie was directly blocking the front door of this particular studio we was in. So I seen that truck, and then when I got inside, I was just thinking like, yo, why are they in LA after? Like, yo, they tripping, yo. Cause people, you know, these people they will holler at you, man, if they see you somewhere. And they got some ignorant dudes that would do it anywhere, you know what I mean? But anyway, Biggie, we've been around Biggie before, summer jams and different stuff like that, and he was just always quiet. I never really heard Biggie say too many words, bro.
No.
Biggie just looked. He don't really say a lot. I mean, you know, and we didn't hear his verse until the song came out too. He didn't do it that day. Yeah.
I remember reading an article about it, and like he said that when he did that verse, he came out the booth and said, yo, I'm the best that ever did it. Because he was able to do Bone style.
Absolutely. That's what all of us tripped off of. We all tripped off of it, yo. Like, all of us was like.
Yeah, the Bone style was not an easy style to pull off.
No, and I said I wasn't at the studio, but I was with him the first time they performed it at the Forum. It was amazing, man.
Oh, okay.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite Bone songs, actually.
Notorious Thugs?
Yeah. It's one of my favorite.
Yeah.
It's just the whole collaboration. That was them in their prime.
Yeah.
You know
I like Crossroads. I think Crossroads.
Yeah. They was really in their prime to me on Notorious Thugs.
Crazy.
Because nobody would expect the Biggie to even get out on that record like that.
Yeah.
So that's why I made that like my top. That and First of the Month, them like my top Bone records.
Well, I think Biggie, he wasn't trying to feed into that energy. I mean, his first, I don't know if it was first single or one of his first singles was Going Back to Cali.
Yeah.
You know, which he did over the Roger and Zapp, a real Cali type beat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
well, that's why it was so different, because even that beat right there, that beat that's not typical New York.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was a West Coast beat.
Yeah. All that stuff is all that stuff. That's when they started using them elements. You know, it's just using them soulful elements.
Yeah, because I mean, West Coast beat. I hate that terminology.
Yeah, it's just soul. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's just funk. They use a lot of funk
and soul, man.
And then EPMD. I mean, they whole first record was just
soul and funk.
Yeah, Roger and Zapp.
I mean,
did you guys know Roger Troutman?
I knew Roger Troutman and his son. Actually, we performed. You met him at the first Summer Jam. We were the headliners for the first ever Summer Jam out here at Irvine.
Okay.
And Roger Troutman turned that motherfucker out with Jerry curl bags on and shit. I remember that shit clear as day.
I remember I just heard this. It was a radio show because Eazy-E had his radio show.
Yeah,
and he had Roger on.
Yeah.
And they were
First
trying.
Jam.
I guess he was like, Roger's getting ready to put out an album.
Yeah. And his son was a dope producer too.
Really?
Super dope. His junior.
Right. Yeah, because you know, California Love was all
Yeah.
Roger Troutman behind that shit.
Uh-huh.
And that's the way he died was such a fucked up story.
Yeah.
His brother killed him.
Yeah.
And then killed himself.
Yeah.
Over a money dispute.
Damn.
Well, you didn't know about that?
No. I didn't know how he died. I just knew he died.
His brother, Roger Troutman's brother, I think they got into an argument in a car. Brother pulled out a gun, killed him. Then a few blocks later, pulled over and killed himself.
Yeah. All bad.
Just to try to silence that genius. The silence, that's crazy, man.
It's just over a
That's
few
the kind of world
dollars.
we live in, man. That's the kind of world we live in.
Sad, yeah.
You guys came out with a joint album at one point, but only one album.
Yeah.
Did you guys? Why not collaborate more?
No, it wasn't that. It's a story. So this is what happened. Okay, so we over here, we on Outburst, Def Jam, Greedy Greg, and all those people, right? We do the record. Well, actually, we took a lot of songs that he was working on for his record, because like he said, he was supposed to be the next person off Ruthless. So they was already working on Dre's album. I go to the county jail for some traffic warrants or something. They hold me for about 3 weeks. I come home, my manager tell me that these people are talking about a deal. So I'm like, okay, go entertain this, and then we go sit down. And they said they can get us out the contract that we was on with Jim Bob and them. And so it works out. And, you know, they tell us, you know, what they offering, this, that, and the other. And they didn't ask about Dre, you know what I mean? They didn't ask about my brother. And my brother that's when you was, the first time I think you start entertaining Death Row. And what I was like, nah, that's not a good look for us, you know what I mean? Like, even though I was young, I seen it, I was like, we can't collab with Death Row, Eazy just died and all that, you know what I mean? So it would look weird. So I talked them into signing my brother too. You know what I'm saying? Like took a little bit less money and stuff like that. Cause I didn't want him to go over there. Like, cause that just didn't look good. You know what I mean?
I was rebelling.
Yeah, he was rebelling.
I knew what I had. You know what I mean? I knew what.
I didn't want to say all that, but
yeah, I was rebelling. You know what I mean? On purpose, because I was thinking business. You know what I mean? I wanted to be known as a writer. I wanted people to know that I wrote these lyrics so that I can get hired to write more lyrics. You know what I mean? And that people that didn't want me to speak about certain things like that. You know what I mean? So
I know I'd interviewed Arabian Prince,
and
there was he said there was lots of problems after Eazy died in terms of his royalties and stuff like that.
To this day, I'm still having to do lawsuits to get paid because there's so much mess at Ruthless, the books or the contracts. I found a contract that had my signature signed on it that I never signed, signing over my publishing. I never signed it. Oh yeah, it wasn't even my signature.
Right, because Straight Outta Compton, the album went back on the charts again.
Yeah.
After the movie came out.
Yeah.
And you have production on that album.
Yeah.
And you didn't get any royalty checks off.
No, I get checks.
Oh, you get checks?
I get checks. I haven't seen them in a while.
But you said you just signed over your publishing.
No. They said I signed over my publishing. I went to court on that.
Oh, and you won.
And I got paid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because what happened was, I figured it out when Supersonic, when they did the Fergalicious song, when will.i.am made Fergalicious, which was off of Supersonic, and we started getting checks. I'm like, this check is kind of light for a song that sold that many copies. And I'm like, well, what's up with this? Oh, well, you signed over this. I'm like, I never signed nothing.
You wrote Compton City G's. I mean, your own part, Eazy's part. I assume BG, you wrote your own part. Were you guys getting your royalties?
We still get royalties. We probably ain't got what we supposed to get.
I'm still fighting for the total rights for the royalties. That I should be getting, but we don't always receive royalties.
Okay.
You know, a lot of people don't know that's Eazy-E's greatest charting single.
Oh.
Think
okay, makes sense. Yeah.
There's only two people who's ever written hit records for Eazy. That's Dresta and Ice Cube.
Ice Cube, yeah.
I'm in a nice class, man. I just need people to know that. You know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
That's my favorite rapper, by the way.
And that's my favorite rapper. By the way.
No, real talk though. Like, seriously.
A lot of people don't know. I used to beat on the table when I used to talk about why you thought he used to come visit. I used to beat on the table and have raps written, and then he'd go home and then he'd take it and put his twist to it, and he got sharper with it. That's why a lot of people, they'll put us and say, oh, I like BG. I'll be laughing like, man, you don't even know. It's the same shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's just the way we project our, I think, like, he got more of a instrument, like his vocal box is more of an instrument than
More
mine.
deep.
So yeah, so it projects.
I use it in a different way.
Yeah, yeah.
This
he
the
rap
best
from his
gangster
gut
rapper
though. He rap.
This is the best gangster rapper on earth right here, bro. Listen to me. I'm talking about really talking about gang bang and really going in. Yeah, the dude right here, man. Yeah, he really do that for real.
And you guys have both done significant amounts of time because you did 10 years.
10 years and 4 months.
And you did.
I've done the total probably about 15, 16 altogether total from childhood as an adult. Luckily, and I have no strikes. Think about that.
You have no strikes.
No strikes.
Right, because that's actually
No
Suge's.
strikes.
That was Suge's situations. He had 2 strikes.
Yeah.
That's why it was so serious around his thing.
Which is all some bullshit too, because the whole strike shit, all that shit is systematic and it was implemented on purpose. You know, knowing who it was targeted. Just like the plea agreement system is all on purpose. It's what keeps the machine running. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've always had a problem with the plea agreement system because
the day that people stop taking plea agreements, the whole court system would back up.
Yeah, I have a good friend of mine, my son. He was caught in a situation that some of his friends beat up somebody, and they were giving him like a 1-year plea deal, but he just didn't do it. So he's like, I'm not, end up doing 7 years. You know, and a lot of times on the flip side, you have a situation where someone doesn't do it, but they're facing 10, 20 years, but take this 3-year plea deal. We don't care whether you did it or not. So you take that 3 years to avoid that 20 years, and you're innocent sitting behind bars. Like
it's innocent until proven broke. Most of the people who jump on them deals is because they're broke.
Right.
So it even just so if you have the money and you know that you can go and fight it, you got a lawyer that you can pay. Ain't no, most people wouldn't take those deals because you know that you only can bluff for so long. You know what I mean? And it's all business at the end of the day.
Yeah, when you have a public defendant that's working with the court
Even if you got a paid attorney. I've had a paid attorney before that because I wouldn't take a deal that dude wanted me to take. That dude quit on me when I made them refile their case because I wouldn't listen to what he had to say. But come to find out, he was a Latino lawyer working for another, and he had another Latino he was trying to get out, so he was trying to throw me under the.
So those types of deals happen.
Yeah, it's all that type of shit that go on, man.
Let this guy low, and I got this other guy that we'll give him the bigger deal.
And because I wouldn't do that motherfucker, I had to cut. We had to have a verbal dispute. You know what I mean? And I had to relieve him of his duties that day. You know what I mean?
Trey D at one point, I remember our first interview, he said he was facing 120 years.
I was actually facing 122 years.
122 years.
Yes, for gang. I was facing 50 years on gang allegations alone, and that's a charge they have for gang members when you use a firearm. It's like 2, 5, and 10 years. If you use a firearm, if you're intimidating with it, I don't know what the 5 is, but 10 is if it's discharged. And being that I had actually discharged it, I could have got that. So it took me 5 lawyers and a year and a half to get them down to 12 years. And I pretty much didn't have no choice but to take it and go walk it off.
120 years.
Lucky, man. Lucky.
Yeah.
I was facing 100 and beat before.
You were facing 100?
100 years, 7 attempted murders.
You had 7 attempted murders?
Yeah, that's what we were being charged with because there were 7 occupants inside of a limousine. So they charged us with 7 attempted murders, even though there were only 3 slugs fired from a weapon. And there were 7 people in the car, though, so they charged, how could 3 slugs even attempt to kill 7 people? But that's what we were charged with and was innocent.
You beat it?
And beat it. Yeah.
Did they drop it, or did you?
I had to go to court and beat it. The judge had to drop it after testimony from the witnesses didn't pan out right.
Bounded over, y'all was in
We didn't
superior?
get bound. I beat him at the 3 preliminaries.
Oh, that's good.
I beat him in the 3rd preliminary.
You're walking into court facing 100 years.
Man, 10 years per person in the car, plus 10-year enhancement for each crime or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then all your previous things probably played a role in it and everything else.
They couldn't use none of that.
Oh,
they tried to. They couldn't. It's juvenile.
Yeah. Oh, it's juvenile.
They'll bluff you with it and say, "Oh, well, if you'll admit that you have this juvenile, now why would I admit to something that you know you cannot produce?" The system, the system changed. That's a lot of that stuff has been discarded. It doesn't even exist anymore.
But you're walking into a courtroom facing 100 years.
Yeah. And this was not long after the OJ stuff too. So it was like OJ had just beat when I won in there. And the kids, family members.
I was in there with OJ. I used to go visiting with him.
It was a beautiful thing.
Oh, you were locked up with OJ?
Yeah, that's the time around when I got the deal and all that stuff.
That's
around when Eazy passed away.
That's why I earned these stripes right here. I earned these in that county jail fighting looking at 100 years, man.
What year was that he beat his trial? Was it 95 or 96?
I think it was 95. Was it
95?
96,
96. 96?
95,
yeah. A lot of stuff
95, from January to October 95.
Yeah.
Did you talk to OJ?
Around that time.
I didn't talk to him. Yeah. He had a bunch of, in the county jail, it's like a bunch of cops on both sides of him, you know what I mean? But you could see them, they walking by you, but I ain't had nothing to say to him.
So that was the most stressful situation in your life?
One of them. I have a baby who passed, a daughter. I've been through a lot of things, man. So, I have a baby brother that died, that was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
That was my baby. That was, another pair of diapers I used to change, you know what I mean? So it's some of that shit ain't nothing that you might think is everything. That's just trials and, experiences in life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, they say the sun will rise up the next day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No matter what's going on with you, tomorrow.
You have to.
Tomorrow.
You got to find a way to, because if you don't, man, let me tell you,
It's
mental
gonna
health.
stop one day.
Mental health and all that shit is for real, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's for real, and it's hard once you allow your mind to get taken so far away from where you are. It ain't easy to come back from that from a lot of people, man.
That's something I want to speak on too. And like incarceration, people go through, like Slim just got out, did all that time. I did a decade, no therapy, Vlad.
No therapy.
We just supposed to come out here and just behave like a normal person. You know what I mean?
Not only that, black people historically from
just from
days of slavery have been through all that
Mm-hmm.
traumatic experiences with no therapy.
Yeah.
So imagine how much of that has been passed down generation to generation to generation. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Well, I interviewed this guy named Shaka Senghor. You guys heard of him?
Who?
Shaka Senghor.
Senghor?
Senghor, no. Senghor.
No.
He was a Detroit kid who got shot at a trap house or something like that. And we talked about how.
So my friend who had got shot the prior year, he ended up taking me to the hospital, dropping me off. They basically pulled 2 bullets out my leg, left one in my foot, patched me up, and literally within a couple of days, I was right back on the block.
Okay. Now you said this is sort of the start of your PTSD.
Yeah, so at that point, both of my brothers had been shot. My childhood friend had been murdered. My other friend had been shot. And then I got shot. And a couple of more guys on my block had been shot as well.
Soon afterwards, so he starts carrying a gun because he doesn't want to get shot again. Drug deal starts to go kind of wrong.
Right.
He feels like there's a guy that's being kind of jumpy. He felt he was about to reach for a gun. He pulls out, kills the guy.
Yeah.
In prison, he actually writes a book called Righting My Wrongs, which ends up being a bestseller. Oprah has him on it. It becomes one of Oprah's, book picks. She has him on the show, and now it's like he goes around speaking about this and everything else like that. But it's the same type of situation where,
and that's something I want to get into as well.
Yeah, where it's like
some of the goals I'm
there's
trying to get to right now.
You have these traumatic events that you guys are going
through. Set you on a course, yeah.
That they just put a Band-Aid on you and throw you back out and say, all right, well, deal with it.
That's where self has to come into play. Self-love. You have to start understanding what you need, and you know you need these things. You got to give yourself therapy. You know what I mean? You got to do the things you got to do to strengthen your process. Because ain't nobody gonna do it for you. They don't give a fuck. Out here, they don't give a fuck about none of that type of shit, man. You can lose your mind out here and go and live down on the streets, and they don't give a fuck.
That's the
thing.
I mean? That's the thing, like about how a lot of people, like a lot of young black people, are misunderstood because people don't know why they sag and why they talk the way they do.
Yeah.
You don't know where he come from.
They don't know all of those.
You don't know what he's living at home with. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Most of his defenses and vices and shit that's been having to put up with to survive and wiggle through these streets in these worlds. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So crazy ass errors. Yeah.
That's why I advocate. A lot of people advocate for the little kids. I advocate for little kids, but I also like to advocate for the young men, man, the young kids who in their early 20s and late teens, who them the ones that's always discarded and not left to try to figure it out on their own. And left to think, okay, everybody always giving a fuck about the little kid. Those are kids too. You know what I mean? They men, they adults, but they need the same type of you know, regard as the young kids are giving, man. You know, it's just a lot that we can do. And that's been my reluctancy on coming on these platforms without having something to say. I want to wait till I have, you know, something to stand on as far as, you know, something bigger than just Andre. You know what I'm saying?
Well, listen, man, Dresta, BG Knocc Out, I appreciate you guys coming in. I love the fact that you guys came together.
Yeah,
I've been pushing for this.
No, I know, for a while. You and Evan, yeah.
For a while, because it's like, yo, what's up?
I told you I was going to make it happen. I just know my brother, man. He just...
I'm a spontaneous type of dude.
He's not just spontaneous. He's bullheaded. Like he stick. You know, if he say something, man, it's gonna be hard to look. You gotta talk him into it. Give him some time to think about it.
Yeah, sometimes it's like that. You know, like I say, there might be some of my mechanisms I had to develop. You know, in my experiences. You know.
Yeah,
I mean, it's don't make no excuses for it. I honor every bit of me, man.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, you know, you guys were involved in a very important time
Yeah.
in hip hop.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, with a very important person.
Yeah.
You know, I interviewed
Rest in
Eazy-E's
peace, bro.
oldest son, Lil Eazy. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah,
that
definitely.
interview, and you know, I remember him crying. You know,
Yeah.
we talked about his dad. His
He was
dad
11,
passing.
bro. He was 11. Probably 10 and a half, not even 11 yet.
I mean, Eazy was the first rapper to die from AIDS.
So they say.
So they say.
You don't believe it?
No.
Why is that?
Just
Brother.
scientifically. Scientifically, you don't. Whoever I know people personally, and all, you know, that I know who's passed away from that. It's a process. You don't just get diagnosed with HIV then die from AIDS. It doesn't happen.
And then
when does it happen? Show me one time it's happened. It doesn't.
If you don't get tested ever, and you finally get tested when you're, because he was actually sick, I heard it.
But you don't have children. You have a woman who's pregnant when you pass, and you had just had a baby before you passed.
You got side
then
women.
you have 11 other children. Then you got all these other side women who are your women.
Yeah, I heard a new kid
not one
recently
person
popped up.
Yeah.
a new
It's a
Eazy-E
dude,
baby.
he's same age
Okay,
as Eric.
I heard there's actually two Erics.
There's two Erics, yeah.
Why have no one popped up about being it's been given? If you had a cousin, a sister, a friend who had sex with, wouldn't you be telling her to go get tested?
It don't add up.
It doesn't add up, bro.
It don't add up. And when I was in college, I took philosophy.
It doesn't add
yeah,
up,
if it
man.
don't add up, it just can't be. It can't be the way they said it was.
It can't be. I mean, one person, not one. I'm at this Eazy-E, one of the first
I
multi-millionaires.
mean, nobody even live, Vlad, like try to, you know how people do this stuff. They'll see something and try to insert themselves
to
in
get some money out of it. And all. None of that.
Never happened.
Do you think he was just doing it? Do you think he was just having sex with regular women?
Years.
You don't think it was some celebrity women also that he was, you know what I mean, was tapping and all that?
25, 26 years.
I mean, but you don't catch HIV every time you have sex with somebody.
Yeah,
HIV would be like, take out half the
so you're telling me a person can exist with an AIDS that kills and not infect nobody that they're having sex with?
That don't make sense, yeah.
I can understand having HIV and they're still living. We're talking about something that killed.
I mean, and Eazy, I remember I think on the Howard Stern show, he said he doesn't use condoms.
Man, Eazy used to say stuff for shock
Vlad,
value,
I think that's what Vlad doing right now. He's saying this shit for shock value.
No, he's saying what he really heard.
Eazy actually said that.
Yeah.
How many other people? Let me tell you something. Where was we at when we first heard the story? And we ended up relaying the story to another mogul about what we had just heard.
I don't remember.
At Jerry's Deli.
Okay.
Beverly Center.
Yeah.
With who? Russell Simmons.
Oh, Russell, yeah.
And we told him the rumor that had been told. You know what Russell Simmons said? He said, Dresta, do you know how many fucking women I've had sex with without a fucking condom? Do you know who the fuck I am? He's like,
and then we can speak about Wilt Chamberlain and all these people.
Come on, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
Come on, that ain't even an argument.
Yeah, it don't add up.
That's the weakest argument ever.
It don't add up. And then his death certificate, it says cardiac arrest. How about that?
What did you think when Suge went on, was it the Arsenio Hall show?
See, technology is so high, right? Right. So if you shoot somebody, you go to jail forever. So the kids, you don't want to go to jail forever, right? So they got this new thing out there. People sell them all the time. They got this stuff they call, they get blood from somebody with AIDS, and then they shoot you with it.
Oh,
so
well, that seems bad.
That's a slow death.
Yeah.
An Eazy-E thing.
That Suge saying shit that he should have never had no business saying, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember Eazy-E's son said that he...
High school days, I was young and dumb, so a couple of his family members got the rap for that. So I just put it that way.
Wait, I don't understand.
A couple of Suge's family members got the wrath of how I felt at that time. His nephew, everybody else.
You knew them?
Yeah, went to school.
Oh, you were in high school with them?
Yeah, went to high school with them.
So was there an altercation that happened?
Oh yeah, broke a lot of noses and faces and knuckles and all that. Did a lot of that. Did a lot of, you know, nothing criminal. Did a lot of ignorant stuff when I was a young kid. I thought dumb at that time.
Yeah, he was a little squabbler, yeah. He probably did. He probably did.
But it was, you know, it was one of those jokes.
Yeah, man, it's like that, you know, it's stuff like that. Looking back on it, it's like, yo, what did this dude know? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you really ask yourself, what did he know that nobody else did?
You kind of had to be there to see the way it kind of all unfolded. You know what I mean? It's like I said, we editing it, because it's parts of this stuff that we was there for. And we was there for parts of the ruthless takeover and a lot of, you know what I mean? We were present, you know what I mean? So it's just the way that a lot of stuff transpired that the public might not really be putting the pieces together like Tupac murder. You know what I'm saying? If they was putting the pieces together like Eazy, then they would see it would be out there, you know what I mean? But it's a reason why that's not being done as well, right?
So you think the AIDS thing is bullshit?
I definitely think it's
think it's bullshit, yeah.
Maybe
And
they,
just
maybe they put it
dude.
in there after he was already dying or something. You feel me?
Well,
like,
I mean, he spoke about it. Remember, he had the statement.
No, that was a lawyer reading a statement that was written.
Supposedly written.
Check this out. Eazy-E was on his deathbed, couldn't speak.
Couldn't even
I was
talk,
there.
bro.
I was in the hospital.
Oh, you showed up.
He had all that shit.
I was at the hospital. I was in the room. I was in the back with the family.
You went to the hospital
Yeah.
when Eazy was dying.
Yeah, immediately.
We was always there. I never would go in, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I would be outside.
A lot of people wasn't even allowed to go to the places we went
were.
in the hospital.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So
by the time he was in the hospital, he wasn't even speaking.
Nah, they had tubes all down his, man, like shoved all through it, like how he was, pretty much. He had a respirator. I think it was making his lungs pump because his lungs stopped functioning on their own or something like that.
Yeah. Well, listen, you know, I credit Eazy-E with really being a big inspiration for me loving hip hop the way I do. You know what I mean? Because I've always, you know, before then I was into hip hop, but I think, you know, when I first heard, you know, Eazy Does It, it gave me this new type of fire. Like, yo, this is so good. You know what I'm saying?
That's where a lot of y'all started. It started with a lot of y'all like this. Yeah. See, we grew up in an era where it started with us with Mixmaster Spade, and we had people like Mellow J from the Projects and King T, and we, you know, Mixmaster Ken, Schoolie D. It was people. I was like one of the first kids. I was one of the little kids at the Fresh Fest in Long Beach when Run DMC was the main shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I was listening to all that also.
Yeah, but I'm saying even on the West Coast, we had underground rappers who were popular in the streets.
Yeah.
Before Eazy-E
you know about
even came along.
Mixmaster Spade,
Yeah, I know about Mixmaster Spade. Absolutely.
Toddy T and all them.
Yeah. And like I said, Uncle Jam's Army, Egyptian Lover, I was buying those albums. You know, and you know, Too Short was popping in the Bay, but
absolutely.
Too Short didn't come along out here till like what, 87? Yeah, I think I was at Optimus with Too Short, 86, 87.
But Dr. Dre's production and the way he utilized, you know, how we talked about how Eazy wasn't an on beat type of dude, the way he would actually.
Yeah, was
once he was done, it was like, yo, this is
he's a doctor. Incredible. Yeah, he's a doctor for real.
First time I ever heard that. What the fuck is up in the place to be? Coming on the mic, man, that shit was like the Temptations of somebody. You know what I mean?
You know that was Michelle A on the intro. He was once a thug around. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, they was on their tip, man.
I definitely appreciate you guys coming in. It's a very important story.
For sure.
I'm glad that the two of you. You know, and I love the way how you guys play off each other.
And that's why we're doing it, because we're looking for funding. We're hoping to call it a casting call soon so we can get the film done, because it needs to be done.
Well, you know, the Michelle A interview I did was the basis for her biopic.
Yeah.
If you watch our interview, the biopic, it's like exactly. She told me that after they saw it, that's when they reached out and stuff like that. So I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. I mean, shit, 7 million people who saw this last one.
Come on, man. We need 100.
We need 100 million.
We need 1 billion.
That's what it is.
On Crip we do.
Crip we do.
Well, Dresta and BG Knocc Out, man. I appreciate it, man. Until next time.
Appreciate you, bro.
No doubt.
Appreciate you.
Hey, man, to all the brothers out there doing something positive, trying to keep the unity and the peace out there, man, I appreciate y'all. Keep doing what y'all do, man.